Hey guys, this is Tom Kelly here, your host of the Reminiscent podcast. A couple weeks ago, we failed to put out an episode for the first time in 30 weeks, and it's been bothering me. So I wanted to be able to make it up to you. So I wanted to be able to make it up to you a little bit, put out kind of a bonus episode. I'm going to call my friends Kyle and Kylie Parker. They are Well, I'll let them introduce themselves. They're good friends of mine, and I'm going to give them a call. We've got some fun things to talk about, so here we go. Oh, hello. Oop, can't hear you guys.
About now.
Ooh, yeah, there we go.
All right, awesome.
I have my Connect turn off for chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you guys sound great. What's going on?
What's going on with you, man?
Not too much, man. I totally forgot how to set this up to I've got this crazy contraption where I'm have you on my phone recording into my computer. There's just so many things going on. But we got it.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So God, we had this conversation something like this what was that, a year ago when you guys were on
It
that
was probably a year ago, almost to the day. Yeah.
Wow. So what's been going on?
Life.
Just chilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to record kind of a bonus episode for the podcast that I do with my buddy because we missed a week, but also just kind of selfishly, I wanted to talk to you guys about E3 just kind of for myself.
Sure. No, yeah, for sure.
Because you guys, you were there. What was that, 2-3 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago? 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. You guys want to talk about that?
No.
No, because that's super exciting stuff, man. They announced a lot of really cool things this year.
Yeah,
sure.
they did.
Well, let's hear it. Actually, you know what? Before we even go into this, who the heck are you guys? Because I know.
Well, okay. I am Kyle. My handle on Instagram is Admiral Boogaloo.
Yeah.
And the crafter / sidekick for
Captain Dangerous.
Woo-hoo!
Or Kylie Parker.
Yeah.
I take photos of toys and things.
If there were a job title, well, I'm sure there is a job title for that, but what would what would that be? Because I feel weird explaining to people
A product photographer would probably be the easiest because that technically is what I do. Because I don't just photograph figures, I do photos of the Switch, a lot of Nintendo products, and just video game products in general, honestly. Not just Nintendo, but mainly Nintendo.
Okay, cool. So that's who we're talking to today. And yeah, let me hear about E3. I was trying to follow up a little bit, but I think it was all happening while I was at work and haven't been good about catching up on it.
Well, do you have any questions that you to kind of lead the conversation, or you just kind of want us to banter on about it?
Well, I definitely saw the one thing that I do know is that Nintendo was kind of killed it this year, right? Mostly what I heard was Nintendo was stealing all the spotlight from everyone this year. In your unbiased opinion, is that true?
Oh yeah, I'm honestly, I was just shocked over the fact that they just threw so much at us without even any warning. My biggest thing was Metroid.
Right.
We've been waiting forever for Metroid, and I know Kyle is a huge fan. So once they kind of threw that out there, not only did they talk about, Metroid Prime, successor to that, but then they threw out, just to kind of hold you over until that, here, we're going to throw a Metroid on the 3DS for you.
Right.
So I was like, all right.
One thing I think that they did that maybe the other big two didn't is, Xbox released some really neat exclusives, or announced really neat exclusives.
Absolutely.
The last couple of E3s, Scalebound, Fable, just to name two off the top of my head. I feel like there's probably a couple more that have since been canned. Recore was kind of a disappointment, although...
Which, by the way, I'm still extremely salty over Scalebound. Like, you have no idea. Like, every time, like, I still, like, people kind of still, like, post, like, promotional stuff about it on Reddit just to talk about how upset they are that it's not being made a game. And I am totally part of that group because I freaking love dragons. And the fact that,
Right.
like, yeah, they were going to make a video game entirely based around dragons and fighting stuff. Like, it was a dream come true. So I'm really hoping that eventually maybe they will do something with that. I don't know if, like, they completely canned the idea or, you know, fingers crossed, maybe another company picks it up. I don't know. I don't think that will happen, but part of me wishes that it will, maybe.
Right.
But, yeah.
And that was what system was that on? PS4?
Xbox.
Xbox,
Yeah.
Xbox.
Those were exclusives, and for Sony, we bought the PS4 more or less for Horizon Zero Dawn, and it turned out to be a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Last
E3, we actually got to meet a couple of the people who worked on the game. Really, really cool guys. Yeah, they were just incredible to talk to, and it was really neat to actually test out the game last year and be able to turn around and tell them, like, you guys did freaking fantastic on this. Like, even in the short,
Right.
to play it, I was like, you guys did great. Like, this is an absolutely stunning game, and it held up even when it released. You know, we played the crap out of it. Like, it's so cool, and it's right up our alley. I mean, you've got a bit of like that medieval kind of old school feel to it, mixed with robots. Like, what more could you want?
Right.
Honestly, yeah, it's awesome.
But you know, so Sony had that as an exclusive, and I guess the point I'm driving at, even though we've kind of had some tangents in there, is I feel like Nintendo is a company that actually listened to what the fans wanted and then brought that to the table at this E3.
Right.
So,
yeah.
well, obviously wanted a new Mario, and they did that. And Mario Odyssey is a blast, which I'm sure we'll talk more about later.
Oh yeah.
The fact that they are bringing Prime 4, the remake, which after I know those indie developer guys made another Metroid 2 remake, AM2R, which was put up and then got cease and desist got put on it. They had to take it down, and that was because this was getting made. Now we're getting the Pokemon on the Switch.
Oh yeah.
That's coming to this.
Whoa. I didn't hear about
Yeah.
that.
Did you not see that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No. So again, this is one of the things, like with the Xbox press conference and the Sony press conference. You kind of get a little bit of a breather in between game announcements because they show like a trailer, and then they maybe talk a little bit about it, and then it's like, well, not coming to the stage is this person, and then you have a second to breathe. And it's like Reggie's like, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. And you're like, oh, I can't take it. So I think it was, I can't remember exactly when it fell in the trailer, but I think it was before Prime 4. And there's just this guy sitting at a writing desk, and he's like, hi, I'm so-and-so from Pokemon. And we just kind of wanted to say that,
we're working on a full game.
yeah, we're working on a full standalone RPG game for the Nintendo Switch that's, going to be a Pokemon mainline game.
Yeah.
It should be out, probably in a year or so. See you later. And that was it. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And freaking out because it's like huge, huge news.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then it was just like right after that. Then I think that was when Prime released. Or Prime.
Like the second I started to hear the music, like I'm looking at Kyle.
I
right?
was already freaking out.
Yeah,
Because
I'm like,
once the screen went black and they started showing stars, I was like,
Yeah. Like Kyle's like hyperventilating, and I'm like, "Is this what I think it is?" I'm like grabbing onto Kyle's arm. I was like shaking. I was like, "It's Metroid! It finally happened!"
Yeah.
I was like, "Dreams do come true!"
Oh my God, that's awesome. I mean, did they show like a trailer or any gameplay from either of those games?
They did for the one for the 3DS,
Yeah,
but not for Prime 4, right?
for Prime 4, they just said it's in development. So,
which is enough to make the fans,
Yeah.
explode.
and Reggie kind of expounded on it a little bit. It sounds like he was talking about, somebody had asked him a question in terms of like the release dates for all the games coming out,
Right.
And he said we have a pretty good lineup this year. It's like, we just had ARMS release. I think like, hey, Pikmin's getting ready to come out on the 3DS.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
They have a pretty good release schedule. Something's coming out nearly every month. Then obviously you're going to have Mario Odyssey sometime. I think it's October.
I know it's like near holiday-ish.
Metroid, the remake on the 3DS comes out in September.
Yeah.
So you got kind of this. I think Splatoon sometime in the summer. Is it? I think so. I think Splatoon 2 is this year.
There are so many amazing games I can't even remember.
So it's basically once 2018 hits, we're going to have Metroid, the new Yoshi, the new Kirby, and I think one other. So they basically have it timed out to where just as you're setting this game down, there's going to be another big game for you to pick up.
And part of me keeps hoping, because Luigi is my favorite, that they're going to either do like some Luigi type game, or for the love of God, please make another Luigi's Mansion, because that, like, besides Zelda and like all, Luigi's Mansion is like, that's like my jam. Like because I love Halloween, I love Haunted Mansions. Luigi is freaking hilarious. All the little sounds he makes, like, during the games are, like, he doesn't even really talk that much. Like, he'll kind of be like, like, maybe say, like, okay, or, whatever, kind of like Mario. But it's just like a higher pitched version of Mario's voice. It just makes it hilarious. So I really hope that eventually they will make another one. I know a lot of fans have wanted it. So, I mean, they're giving us Metroid, so they do listen.
Right. And I mean, all of that on top of, didn't they just release the like Super Nintendo Mini like 2 days ago?
Yeah, announced that. So
yeah, people are waiting. They're like, man, is this Nintendo 64 Mini gonna happen? I'm like, I hope so.
Oh my god,
awesome.
Yeah, I'd be all over that.
For sure.
Because I feel bad saying this out loud, but I'm not like a huge gamer. I'm just obsessed with The Legend of Zelda,
That's good enough. Like,
right. But I do remember complaints from last year that all people said that all Nintendo really had was Zelda, right? I mean,
right. And I actually talked to them a bit about that, and the reason why, and it makes sense. I think they were wanting to just kind of dedicate this E3 to Breath of the Wild, simply because it was such a big game and it had been hyped up for so long that they just wanted to kind of have Breath of the Wild be the focus at E3 last year, which at first I was a little skeptical. I was like, why would you, because usually they got 4 or 5 games.
It was not a bad thing.
It was not a bad thing.
So I don't know if it was people outside of E3 saying that.
Yeah.
But the fact that the entire area was dedicated to solely Breath of the Wild, like when you walked into their booth, because it was closed off from the outside,
you just felt like you were walking into the game.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It had like the Bokleben Tower there,
and like a statue of Link.
They had like the cooking pot with the stuff, kind of moving around, and it really felt like they had like a big like desolated guardian like off to the side. It was really spectacular, the amount that they did to kind of showcase.
Yeah, and what's really crazy too is the fact that everybody at E3, that was the thing at E3 last year, was that like 70% of the people were there, honestly, at the Breath of the Wild.
Oh, sure,
Yeah, so for us last year, we're waiting in line to go into, they have 2 halls. If I get them mixed up, I'm just going to call them left and right. So the left hall had like Square Enix, Microsoft, Ubisoft, Bethesda, all them.
I think Twitch is over there too.
Yeah. And then the right hall has Nintendo and Sony are kind of the 2 main ones in there. I think like there's like Capcom.
Yeah.
No, Ubisoft's in the one with Nintendo as well, I think. In any case, last year we're waiting to get into the right hall where Nintendo's at. And we kind of just, we're looking around, kind of taking it in the sides, and we're like, we'll get to the Nintendo booth here. Like, as we're walking, we're not going to sprint there or anything.
Sure.
And we get there, and shortly, it was probably 30, 45 minutes into the show, the line and the wait for Zelda was already 6 hours, and they closed the line.
Oh my god.
Yeah. We said, all right.
At 10 o'clock, like when it opened,
yeah, so
the lines were shut off.
Well, Yeah, the first day it opened.
First day was open,
at noon, so it was like 12:30, and they'd already shut the line down.
Oh, I was talking about the second day. It was like 10 o'clock.
So we said, okay, well, we'll wait till like the next 2 days because it'll probably die down, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the second day, we get there a little bit early, and it was like 10:05, and we kind of more hurried back there because we wanted to go ahead and knock it out. And again, lines were closed. It was a 6-hour wait.
Yeah.
And then we're like, we'll hit it the last day. We'll get it. Let's just kind of take in the rest of the sites. We'll make Zelda number one priority. We'll wait no matter what. And again, we got there extra early to make sure that we were in the line for the line.
People were like running to the Breath of the Wild.
People were sprinting, and it was we would not have been able to play
had it not been for
the people at Golan and Nintendo, who basically gave us the VIP tour.
Because this was kind of before I really got to know them. I was still kind of new on their team.
Yeah, because we had the invite for the ambassador program to become ambassadors probably a month or so before the E3 invite.
Right. So I didn't really know anybody.
Yeah, so we were still kind of new to the team before we really went out there.
Right.
So we didn't really know what to expect and what to do. And obviously this year was a much different experience.
We got to meet up with a lot of people that I've been talking to over the past year. But not only that, a lot of new faces, which was really, really awesome. They're really great people, and they love what they do. And it's really awesome to be around people that are as passionate as I am about, creating stuff and being part of a community, a brand,
Nintendo.
So those are other. Yeah. I mean, so those were other ambassadors you're talking about, or members from Nintendo?
Oh, these are people who actually work at we're talking community coordinator. Some of the people. Team.
Yeah. From Nintendo.
For NOA, I should say. Yeah.
Okay. And
oh, go ahead.
No, I've heard you talk about Nintendo of America. What's the distinction between Nintendo other than it's centered in Japan versus Nintendo of America?
Nintendo of America is, I want to say the I guess it would be the most involved or the biggest.
As one of their arms, obviously Nintendo of Japan is the think tank. They're the ones who are developing the games,
right?
And, working on the actual Nintendo brand. What are we going to do next? New IPs, that kind of thing.
I feel like Nintendo of America is Reggie. That's what I think of every time I think of NOA is Reggie.
But they're obviously in charge of localization, so translating the games, making sure they work well over here, that kind of a thing. And
okay.
But obviously Zelda needed to be translated to English. I believe that's part of what they do.
I think.
Okay.
And obviously it's just the headquarters for what Nintendo does in America.
I mean, and to be fair, we're still learning all this as well. Yeah, so we may be wrong.
Take what we're saying with a grain of salt.
Yes.
If you really want to know, Google it, because Google knows everything.
Yeah, Google knows everything.
So what would be best part of E3 and I was gonna say biggest letdown, but I don't want to focus on anything negative. What was your either biggest takeaway or what you're most excited for from E3?
Game wise, I know we talked about Super Mario Odyssey, but I definitely think that left the biggest impression on me. I actually was able to play it twice. When you play, I actually waited in line with some friends just because we didn't have anything else to do.
First thing to say, Nintendo had the best queues for all the games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, Destiny 2 was
you couldn't even get in to play Destiny 2. We
everything
tried.
Everything was just they didn't shuffle the people through fast enough.
Yeah, Nintendo.
I mean, you were right down the side of the booth and
I guess I don't know if that's Nintendo doing it or the people who run E3. I mean, maybe it's a bit of both.
I don't think. Because it was only at the Nintendo booth. I mean, waiting in line for ARMS and waiting in line for Mario.
I guess you should say the way they had it set up was really good.
Yeah, and the play times were long enough to where you got a taste of the game, but it was shuffling people through fast enough that everybody could play.
And also, I feel like Nintendo had the best swag, for sure. They had a sweet metal pin that you could get, Super Mario Odyssey pins. They had Splatoon 2 pins. They had ARMS pins. What else did they have? Or was
the
that
Mario hats, right?
Yeah, the Mario hats.
Mario
That was
visors,
it. Yeah.
And like every day when you got in, like the first 500 people that played or something like that got a passport card, and if you played all the games that day, you got something. So I don't know what it
Yeah,
was.
Oh, that's dope. I like that a lot.
You can either pick between like the hat or a shirt, a pin or a shirt, all that kind of stuff.
But anyway, yeah, it was really awesome. It feels a lot like I guess I want to say it feels like Super Mario Sunshine a little bit, but with a little bit of like Mario Galaxy. It honestly kind of feels like all the Marios in one is the best way to put it. And it's kind of odd playing it because it is a little bit more in a modern setting and you're around like people, it's not just because that stuff's there. But I mean, it's kind of odd to like be running through what looks like, New York, like running along. Like,
well, it's not New York, Kylie. It's New Dawn.
Oh, right. New Dawn. My bad.
God, Kylie.
But yeah, it's just kind of crazy to be running through, and you look over and you see some guy dressed as in like a suit and with a bowler hat or whatever. Fedora or something. Yeah, and they don't really talk, but they kind of just make like weird noises.
Kind of like The Sims.
Yeah, like The Sims. That's it. Yeah, which was really funny. Like I wasn't expecting that. But it's so cool. The fact that you can use his hat to like turn into stuff. Oh my gosh, it's freaking awesome. So of course, the first thing I did when I started playing is throwing my hat at everything that moves, everything that don't move. I seriously, yeah. Like I ran up to like the building. It was like, this is Mario. Anything can happen. So like throwing the hat at the building. I was like, am I gonna turn into a building? Like I probably like. I'm sure the guy standing next to me was like, what is she doing? I was like, hey, you never know. But oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And like I said, I think it's going to be huge when it comes out. And I really think that everybody's gonna it's gonna be kind of how Breath of the Wild was a refresher for Zelda. It was kind of a new take on the series. Right. I definitely feel like Mario Odyssey is going to be that for the Mario series. It still feels like Mario, but it's got such a cool twist and added things to it that it just feels like a whole new thing. And I am absolutely stoked to be able to play it in full here in a few months. Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'd say for me, obviously, I love the stuff that Nintendo announced. I think the biggest thing to take away for me, aside from actual other games, Metroid Prime 4, but since I didn't actually get to play it or see anything on it, I hope that they do a new take on it, just like they did with Mario and Zelda. I hope they're going through kind of this revamp of each of their IPs, and I hope that they kind of give that the same treatment. But I think my biggest takeaway, because I agree with everything she said about Mario Odyssey, is probably the new Assassin's Creed. I've played since the very first installment, and had gripes with some of the games, and really enjoyed some of the others. And this Assassin's Creed has been reimagined from the ground up. We get to talk with someone who is actually the lady who featured Kylie in a magazine way back when. Her name is Louise Blaine. She writes for Games Masters and Games Radar.
Games Radar, yeah.
Games Masters being the magazine, Games Radar being the internet side of the thing, the digital.
Okay, can you repeat her name? Sorry, can you repeat her name? It kind of cut out when you were saying it.
Louise Blaine.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, no problem. We got to meet up with her and had an awesome conversation. She's super great. Her Instagram handle is Shiny Demon. I know she doesn't really put too much.
But she's like one of the biggest Assassin's Creed fans I know.
Yeah, and she got to play it
before they even announced
it, and talked about how, well, take everything you knew on the control schemes and throw them out the window. It's like left shield, holding the left trigger brings up your shield, and right trigger and right bumper are heavy and light attacks, and you have this eagle that scouts for you, all kinds of stuff. So it really changes the way other Assassin's Creed games are played, and I am very excited for that. I really enjoyed Black Flag and Syndicate.
Oh, yeah. Both of those, I think, were my favorite as well.
So it's nice to see that they're continuing to take the series. I know they took kind of like a year off to be able to put this out, and I think the time off is going to be worth it. So
Dope.
For me, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway. I'm really excited for Assassin's Creed.
You know, that's I've never played that game, which I feel horrible about because I've like described to friends before of like what I like in video games. Like I haven't been able to consider myself a gamer since like maybe PS1 when that's like all I did because I had time for it. But I've like explained to friends like, you know, what I like about a game and they're like, wow, that sounds exactly like Assassin's Creed, you know, like you should get on that.
I really think you would enjoy it.
If I were to suggest one to pick up, I would either suggest Black Flag or Syndicate, and I'd probably say Syndicate first because it's the first one that offers kind of two characters to play as, and Evie, which is the sister, she's more of a stealthy, typical
assassin.
I'm a Creed, by the Creed assassin,
and her brother is just
bare knuckles brawler kind of a guy.
He's my
so you can go in swinging, or you can kind of go in the stealthy route, and you can switch, I believe, almost at any time. And there's only just a couple missions where you have to play as one or the other.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
if you want to get a good feel for the series and kind of have a little bit more flexibility, that one's really good. And Black Flag is great because it's like, well, you have an Assassin's Creed game, and you're an assassin, and you have a pirate game. So pirates.
Which, like, 80% of me playing Black Flag was just going like the whaling side quest thing.
Yeah.
And it's because I absolutely love the fact that your team, like your crew, sings songs, not only when you're sailing on your ship, but like when you're out whaling. And it's the only, like, forget the rest of the game. Like, I just want to like chill with my crew and like, hear sea shanties all day.
Which, speaking of, Skull and Bones.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That one looks interesting.
Which is like Assassin's Creed minus.
They took the Assassin's Creed 4 engine and the pirates, and they kind of made it into. They showed like the multiplayer side of it, where you're in the boats and you have different classes of ships and you fight each other.
It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, the game.
Yeah, but I do believe there is a single player component. That's what they said in one of their interviews. So. That one looks interesting too. I did like what Ubisoft had to bring to the table. A lot of their games look really, really good. So I don't know. We'll see. It's tough because you get excited for these games, and then the only negative, which I know you said you don't want to say on the negatives, the only thing I can say is I hope these companies realize what they're anteing on the table. Here's what we're bringing. And when these games don't deliver, or something happens, or it's not as good as No Man's Sky and some other things, we're just tempered as gamers now to be like, well, that game looks great. Well, I'm not going to buy it though because that's just the cinematic trailer.
Right? Yeah.
Fantastic. Because I think Anthem looks really cool. And it was during the Xbox press conference, and I want it to be a great game, but I also was really excited for Scalebound, and I was also really excited for Recore, and some of these other games that just didn't quite hit the mark. And I think that's another thing about Nintendo, man. They announce a game, they don't send it out early. They might delay it.
Yeah.
LDU. But what ends up coming out is something that, I'm not saying Zelda Breath of the Wild was 100% perfect when it released, but, the biggest gripe you had was, man, it's raining too much.
I know.
Yeah, like what kind of, that's what I'm saying. I don't know many people that, like, that's their one complaint and, like, a main game. It's always, actually something like,
it's broken.
The controls are terrible or whatever.
Right.
And it's like the biggest complaint of Breath of the Wild I heard the most was that it rained too much.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
How many hours have you sunk into Breath of the Wild so far? Do you know?
Probably,
I think over 200 or close to. It doesn't track it like because I know I played over 150. But it didn't track it for a while. I don't know if it was just my Switch.
Because, we, part of the ambassador program, they do things ahead of time.
Yeah.
So with it kind of being a pre-launch play experience, it may not have logged everything.
Gotcha. Yeah.
it was kind of
week.
it was kind of a
So we
time
did.
for both of us where we had a week off work, and I don't think I showered that week. It was just literally us on the couch, like dirty balls all over the. It's like, this game is great. I want to sleep now.
Like I had like all the curtains closed in like my living room. It was like dark in here. I'm like curled up in a blanket, and like Kyle and I are like switching off
I think she slept on the couch and I slept on the love seat
Yeah, I
all
don't even
week.
think we slept up in our room.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the thing, though, is that Nintendo is releasing these games and their quality from the general get-go. I mean, there's not a whole lot of complaints or bad bugs or glitches that affect gameplay. Then you have, well, don't buy it at launch because it's not doing well, and you have to wait 2 months before everything's ironed out.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Do you guys want to talk about like tease the show at all, or like the podcast at all?
Sure. Good old Mr. Well, as I have him in my phone, the Overlord Tom Kelly has graciously invited us to be a part of his podcast network. Works.
Yes.
We're a lot of our funds were sunk into E3, and I think we were on the verge of getting ready to buy the equipment, and then we found out E3 was happening, and
Which things are happening with that, not only in terms of things that I'm doing with Nintendo, but stuff that will probably help us with the podcast further on and make it something big, which I think is kind of a good trade-off. Maybe that's just me, but
so the podcast launching is a little bit of a delay, because of E3. But
dude, I would not have let you miss that to buy a low-level microphone.
Yeah, right? I remember you texted me. You're like, "You're going, right?"
Yeah. I think the idea, where I know we're still kind of formulating it, but it's going to be something like this. I imagine me and Kylie will get behind the mic and talk about all things nerdy. I know we want to talk about.
Kyle will make fun of me like he usually does.
Of course. Games, movies, just kind of geek stuff in general. And
toys, figures.
Yeah, and kind of how they've impacted us. And I really, the thing that Kylie's done on her Instagram is have a lot of community feedback.
Yeah,
she spends a lot of time and comment, and there's a lot of back and forth there. So I really want the podcast to be centered around, question and answer kind of stuff, or what do you guys like, and have that interchange kind of be the core of it. I don't want it to be just about us, because we're just normal people.
I was gonna say, we're not. I personally don't feel like we're that interesting. So the fact that you even asked us to do this, I'm a little shocked. I was like, you want like he was like, I mean, Kyle at least like talking with him like okay, but like I don't know, like I said, I don't think I'm that interesting or cool for that matter, but I'll talk about video games and stuff all day. I don't care.
Right. And just so people know, I've already claimed several times I'm not qualified to be talking about games. I'm not going to be in this podcast. It's just you two.
Right.
Well, I mean, the Overlord could easily be a guest spot on one of our episodes.
Right.
Totally.
I can only talk about Zelda. I think I have 270 hours.
You could be the new age Conan Bryan. Clueless Gamer.
Right.
Yes. Oh, actually, that would be a great bit. I like that. We totally should.
Tom could be the Clueless Gamer and chime in on what do you think of Dark Souls 3 and the complex crafting system and the slacks. What's your take on that?
And I'll just talk for 20 minutes, just total nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. Like take it till you make it kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, like my vision for the podcast network was totally I wanted like a community, right? I wanted it to be like not strictly, but mainly like the things you got made fun of for in high school, right? Just super nerdy things. And I didn't just want people who could talk about stuff. I wanted people, like with their co-host, I wanted people who could talk about stuff with their listeners and really engage them. And, on your Instagram, you have a lot of followers and you respond, I think, to every single person.
I try my best, man. I really do, and I honestly, I even check sometimes. I know with the Instagram feed, it kind of gives you a limit, but I will always go out of my way to respond to people because I know what it feels like to be ignored, and I also know how much it meant to me when people I looked up to, or really anybody in general, gave a crap about my work, or even left a comment, or even just sent me like a short message saying, hey, I love what you do, like. Or, for God's sake, like a heart emoji on one of my photos, like that means the world to me. And that's why I try so hard to respond and talk to people because, they're people. I'm here where I'm at because of their support. And I want them to know that I think they're important and I think they're way cooler than I am personally. And that's why I'm always going to go out of my way to, always engage with people because I feel like it means a lot. And I want, everyone to know that I am just a regular person. I'm really not anything super glamorous or whatever at all. I mean, I'm in my pajamas half the time. So I do not live a glamorous life. It's seriously, I mean, for God's sake, I just burned my hands on hot glue about 20 minutes ago trying to put together a miniature downstairs, which I'll hopefully be doing photos of tomorrow. But yeah, that's my life.
And that's why I crap stuff.
Yes. This is why he loves me. Because I am a mess. Like
I come upstairs, put shorts on, and go to the bathroom. And then I come back downstairs and it's like hot glue all over everything. I burn my hand.
Like, okay, like I make a good amount of this stuff, but me and the hot glue gun just do not get along, like, at all. So I'm just gonna let him handle it because, yeah, that hurt. I'm like over here, like, need to get some ice or something.
Wow, sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's all, you know what?
But it's all for the love of it.
Hey. Oh, it happens often.
I just heard what you said, Kyle. My God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if there's like delay, and because I don't know if your end ends before you actually stop talking and we talk over each other. So,
right.
But
no
yes,
worries.
she deserved it.
It's brutal. No, that's really cool, and I'm excited. I think I very vividly remember I was working at the wood shop back in Virginia before I moved to Colorado, and I got like really bored with the music, and I remembered an ex-girlfriend of mine talking about podcasts like years and years ago, and I thought like, I'll check it out, right? And I found a lot of shows that they talked about stuff I was interested in, and I didn't have other people who were interested, and you can just like tweet at them and they would respond. And you see these people as like authority figures or community leaders in their niche. And I mean, I listened 8-9 hours a day to like podcasts, and I would catch myself a couple times like telling my girlfriend when I got home saying like, oh yeah, my friend, oh no, wait, I don't know this person, he's just on a podcast I listen to a lot.
Yeah. I
For sure,
I totally know what you mean. Yeah.
And I know we watch quite a bit of Game Grumps, and they're YouTube channel, but it's kind of set up Let's Play, but it's kind of like a podcast,
kind of like a talk show almost. Yeah.
And same thing happens. I'll be like, oh yeah, you won't believe what Danny said last night. I'm like, you're an idiot. He was on the TV. It's how you're no.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if we ever ran into them in public, it'd be like, I feel like I know them.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy.
That's the way you get. You listen to these personalities. I don't want to objectify, but you listen to these people and you get used to their personalities. You get used to the way they talk, and you're spending hours with that person, just being a fly on the wall. And so, yeah, you're definitely going to feel like
which in my opinion really speaks to people who do that. If you can feel that way about somebody, that you can feel like you never even met them, I really think that speaks to not only their talent as, you know, somebody talking and doing this, but the fact that they're super down to earth and they just love what they do. And I think that's really important. And I really, really feel like we need more of that, and not only just like entertainment industry, but just in the gaming community, especially. I would really love to see more people like that. And it's something I really strive to do myself, just because, you know, I love meeting people. I freaking love it. Like, it is the highlight of my day if I get to meet somebody who, you know, found me via internet or whatever. Like, I just think it's so cool. Like, I was like, let's go get drinks. Like,
Right,
like,
yeah.
you know, I love it. And I really think that that's such a cool. I really think it's becoming more prevalent in just gaming in general. But I still feel like we really need more of it, and I hope to see more of it as this community continues to grow. And I hope to be a part of it too as it gets bigger. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't seek out like big gaming podcasts. There's a couple that I listen to, but it is just kind of three dudes talking about video games, and
Right.
you know, just seeing the way you interact on Instagram, I think it would be a really good place to have people like get to know you better, because your Instagram is mainly your photography. Like, there's a couple,
Right.
side shots of the two of you or whatever. But it's mainly focused on the photography, but people still ask like you guys a bunch of questions. And
Right.
I think it could be huge for like, you know, like your brand, if you want to think about it that way. But also that people who really follow your work, you know, even get a deeper sense of like who the two of you are, and be involved in your world, and they can be more involved in yours if you do like, you know, like the listener questions or, you know, whatever. I think it's, you know, that's definitely what I want. And that's why I was interested in having, you know, you guys do the show, just because you were so involved in the community that you've worked hard to grow and build. So like, I'm definitely excited by the opportunity, by the possibilities of it. And, yeah, I think it's been about a year ago that I first, like, I don't even know how I got a hold of you. Like
You messaged me on Facebook during E3 last year.
Did I?
Yeah, I remember. I was like, hey, and this is before I really knew you, but once like I saw, I was like, oh, I know who you are. And then I was talking to him about it. I was like, oh, we'll just, you know, have to deal with it when we get back from E3. But I was like, this sounds really cool. And it was funny because a year ago, I remember being like kind of nervous about it. And because of the stuff I've had to go through with Nintendo and kind of having to come out of my shell, because to be completely honest, I'm a bit of an introvert with stuff. Like
Definitely.
I'm not about the camera in my face, like that kind of thing.
I'm an introvert.
Shut up. But having to actually speak in front of, you know, people that are quite high in the, you know, gaming world is a bit nerve-wracking. And don't get me wrong, I'm always going to be like, you know, dying on the inside anytime I have to talk or do any of that stuff. But like a year ago, I probably would have been too scared to really do it. But now I'm starting to feel like, you know, this is something I'm more comfortable with. I mean, like doing this right now, like this is super comfortable and it's fun.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy it. I love talking about this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was like hiding in one of the bathrooms at the wood shop, just like kind of squatting against the wall in the corner, like should have been working, but was like trying to, you know, start this thing on the side. And it was just funny because I, you know, back then I was like, I want to get into podcasting, but I don't know enough about any one thing to like talk about it myself. So let's get other people involved. And then I was like, wait, I don't even know how to do a podcast. Why am I emailing people I don't even know to do something with me when I've never done it? And it's been like I bought the domain for Elemental FM a year ago. And that kind of blows my mind that it's been that long, because things have moved a lot slower than I anticipated, but there's been so much more involved, all the unknowns. But like we're launching a new show tomorrow that was just the thought of it was just conceived like a week ago, and we're already airing like the first episode. And like things are rolling, and it's just, I feel like I've had the practice to give you guys a good show. Like if you guys were ready 6 months ago, I wouldn't be in like the better position I'm in now to produce a good quality
Actually,
show
yeah,
for you
sure.
guys. So I think the timeline, it's been exactly what it needs to be or should have been. So I'm really excited.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we call a good segue.
Ooh.
Because talking about you being in a better position to do what you feel to provide for us, I guess we could maybe kind of cap off the conversation with stuff that happened with us while we were out at E3 and with Nintendo.
Was this stuff that would on the podcast episode, or?
I'm going to say everything.
Okay, I was going to say, there's some stuff that isn't in stone yet.
Yeah,
don't.
Just talk in general about what happened. We've been kind of feeling a little bit left in the dark. A lot of communication was kind of wasn't a lot of back and forth between us and Nintendo. And for all those people who don't know that are listening, Nintendo actually runs most of their PR and marketing. They used to run it through this company called Golan.
Which are great people, by the way.
They're fantastic people. Yeah. And so when we are at E3 and we're interacting with the people behind the booth and they're setting up appointments for people like IGN and Kotaku and all these other large media outlets, Golan and their agents are the people that are kind of setting up those events. And we had the pleasure of talking with her name's Kate at Golan. And that's who we emailed back and forth the last year. She reached out to us for the ambassador program.
She's so sweet. She's wonderful.
Gotten us all the games and Amiibo and everything like that. And so probably the last 6 months or so has been kind of low end on the communication. Right. And when she would send pictures, we wouldn't get much back. And we're like, okay, this is a lot different than how it was. And so we were able to sit down with the community director for Nintendo and the assistant social media manager at Nintendo. And they kind of explained that things are transitioning. Nintendo is doing more in-house rather than using this other agency. They're still utilizing Golan for certain things, but they're doing more in-house now. And so we were able to sit down with them, iron a lot of stuff out, and I really think the conversation was way better than we could ever expect.
Oh, it was.
And we got kind of a plan and a goal for the future, and we've reestablished those connections. And where the communication was lacking, we found out, okay, why is this happening? Found out the reasons why.
Mm-hmm. A lot of questions were answered.
Oh, for sure.
That's awesome.
And everything that we went out there with, like, great, what are we going to do? Or, is this E3 going to be fruitful kind of a thing?
Yeah. I'll be honest. I was scared going out there because, I was afraid of nothing happening and, basically it kind of being a waste. I mean, not in the sense of getting to enjoy yourself, but, a lot of us going out there is, it's business minded, partially. And I was really, really working hard and, have been for the past few years and really hoping that, this is something that, can be a career or lead to something of that. So going out there, I was all nerves. I was very stressed. I didn't know what to expect. And, the fact that they were so kind as to meet with us personally and, us to just have a really good conversation and them kind of, I guess you say, calm some of my fears I had over some stuff. And
sure.
They were very, just very, very encouraging, and it was definitely what I needed.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the reason I know you're probably not going to show the video during the podcast or anything like that, but I grabbed my wife's phone because you had mentioned something about, talking to these people and something like that, meeting somebody famous or something like I can't even remember. But in any case, so when we went to meet with Brad, who's the community director, and Jared, who's the assistant social media manager, for like our little get together to kind of talk about stuff. We went up in their hotel to like this little tucked away bar. It was WP24, which is Wolfgang Puck. I don't know if you all know who he is, but he's a famous chef. And speaking of just being out there and at the events, you're seeing people that are covering these news over video games. You're like, I know that person. that, and
Right. Yeah.
oh, that's somebody from Xbox. Oh, that's somebody from, Naughty Dog, all this kind of stuff. So we're up in this bar, right? Restaurant bar. And we go to sit down, and there's just a business card, a phone, and like a phone charger sitting on this little table, in between these two, kind of mini couches. And we're like, is somebody sitting here? Okay, kind of looking around. The bar was relatively low. It wasn't populated very much. We're kind of looking around. There's just some people at the actual bar itself. And this lady walks over, and she's like, oh, we thought about sitting here. We thought about having some more people coming up. And we're like, oh, okay, well, we can move. She's like, let me see if we're going to be sitting here. So she walks off, and I look over at Kylie deer in the headlights, oh my gosh, I know who that is. Oh my gosh. And the guys at Nintendo don't really know. It ended up being Bonnie Ross, and this is her thing from Google. She's an American video games developer and corporate vice president at Microsoft Studios. She is the head of 343 Industries, the subsidiary studio that manages the Halo video game franchise.
It's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we accidentally booted her.
We booted out Bonnie Ross from a little table.
So, Bonnie,
if you're listening to this, we're sorry.
We're so sorry. We're huge fans.
So, I looked over her. I was like, oh my gosh. And but that's the kind of thing you just don't know. Walk around the corner. We were in the event. Dylan and Cole Sprouse from Sweet Life of Zach and Cody were actually there.
Yeah.
When we were waiting for ARMS, Jack Black was at the Nintendo booth, no farther from me to my TV.
Oh my God! Wow.
Last year I met John Heater, good old Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah. And you guys got to talk to the voice of Mario, right?
We got to actually meet Charles, and he is. We the last day, we got invited back into the booth to just kind of hang out and play video games and stuff, and we were hanging out with Jared and just chit chatting a little bit more, and we saw Charles. They were actually there with the Make-A-Wish kids and Make-A-Wish Foundation. And so it was Charles. There was Shigeru Miyamoto. Koizuma was one of the ones I recognized.
Yeah.
There was some guys from HAL Laboratory who were in charge of Kirby and Smash Brothers. There was some composers there, big names, big Nintendo executives were all there, and they were spending time with those kids. And Miyamoto ended up leaving. A lot of the executives ended up leaving, and Charles was left. And he was doing a lot of pictures with them. And honestly, I retract my statement about Assassin's Creed being my moment. My moment was the last day at E3. It was maybe an hour or two left, and Charles is kind of this little cubby in the booth, and he's sitting with these two kids from the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it was incredibly touching to watch him just be Mario to these kids. And he's going, "Whoa, you're number one!" And, doing the Mario voice, and, doing video after video, and signing everything. And he was an absolute delight. It was just heartwarming to just watch him be the character in real life and just completely love what he does.
And he was so nice. He was really busy, but he saw me, and I asked him. I was like, it's all right if I get a picture of you holding the Mario figure, which is my Facebook cover photo or whatever. But
right.
And he was like, I'll be back. He's like, I gotta go do this real quick. And he grabbed my hand. He's like, I'll be back. I promise. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, I'll wait here. And he waited right after he saw me, and he let me take pictures. I got to talk to him, and he's giving Kyle and I hugs, and he's just being Mario. And I got to actually give him one of my Mario prints as a little gift to him, and he loved it.
Whoa.
Which absolutely made my day.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was he was a little taken aback, and I don't want to read too much into it, but he was like, "Wow,
this was really
thank you. This is really sweet. You didn't have to do that." And
I was kind of trying to gift some of my prints to people
that have,
really helped us, and just because it's a small gesture, and I wish I could give more, but it's just a little something that I had on me that I wanted to let people know that what they did is helped change my life and make a lot of my dreams since I was a little kid come true. And I honestly don't even have words for how thankful I am for the gone above and beyond to help
so
me.
Shout out to Kate, Kelly, and Eddie at Golan, and shout out to Kate at Nintendo, Jared, Brad, and Macy, and Steve as well. Steve's the main guy. So shout out to all those guys. They made our E3 experience this year absolutely spectacular. They went out of their way several times to invite us into the booth, to take us out, talk outside of the show. We got to hang out with them outside of the show.
Taking us out to drinks and all kinds of stuff. They were just very, very,
very hospitable.
Yes.
And obviously, we're both really excited for what we got the chance to talk to them about and what the future holds. So, I don't think we really said anything that we shouldn't have said. But
no. I'm like trying to think. I was like, I think.
I think it's not necessarily like public knowledge, but in terms of like Golan doing stuff for Nintendo, I think that's known to the people that are at least dealing with it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But in any case, it was this year. We both talked because the thing she was saying earlier about, well, you didn't want it to not be successful. And last year, kind of all the contacts that we made a couple contacts at CD Projekt Red, who made the Witcher game series. We exchanged business cards with the guys at Guerrilla Games who made Horizon Zero Dawn. And those contacts just haven't quite panned out exactly the way that we hoped.
And not that I don't think they will eventually.
Yeah,
but
it's
just not right now.
Yeah, and they haven't grown into anything substantial at the moment. And so when we went out there this year, I was like, well, think about it. Last year we went out there, the tourists were snapping pictures and stopping and, not doing the thing that E3 set up to do, which is make connections and network and be business oriented. And we went out there this year with that mindset, and we had our first meeting with Brad and Jared with Nintendo. Booted out Bonnie Ross from her seat, and that was all before the show even started. And so we were on cloud 13, 14, 15 when we began. And the only slight negative, and I don't know if you want to touch on this at all, because this year was the first year that E3 was open to just general public. Whoever could buy a ticket could get in.
Oh, okay.
And 15,000 tickets to...
What's it, 15,000?
Yeah, 15,000.
Which, by the way, sold out in like an instant. And there were some tickets going for $5,000 on eBay, which just pisses me off to no end.
Whoa.
Right? So this year was the first year, I think, that they had tickets for sale. I know they've done other things in the past where they've sent out, invites to the public kind of a thing. But there's other podcasts that I think have touched on it, and I agree with some of the stuff they've said. It's E3, for, again, people who may not know, in the past has been like a media or press only style event.
Sure.
So last year, still being press only, the lines weren't nearly as long except for Zelda. But that's because everybody was going there. But, in general, anything else that we wanted to play, it was 15, 20 minutes, which I feel looks pretty reasonable, to be able to play something. Some of the bigger name stuff, you might have to wait a little bit longer. I think Gears of War 4 was there last year, and I think the line was a little bit longer. But I felt like everything was in line with what I expected. And this year, in between like the Activision booth, so they have like the new Call of Duty that's coming out on the one side, and they had Destiny on the other. And then they had Shadow of War, which is the new Lord of the Rings game. And I can't remember the booth that was right next to that. But that aisleway, man, we got stuck in there for maybe 15 minutes. It was like sardines. It was very claustrophobic. And
I actually thought I was going to die.
No, you didn't.
I did. Seriously though, I was so packed. I was like, if somebody trips or if I trip,
it was one of those things where like the crowd was moving and you can't control where your body's going.
Right. Yeah.
How tight it was in, and I'm not opposed. And again, just because I have partaken in E3 as more of a consumer than anybody who's high up in the industry, I think maybe next year might be a little bit different. But I think it needs to change in terms of how they're bringing the public in if they continue to bring the public in. I think it's PAX or Gamescom is set up to where they have like a public day and then industry related
Oh,
days.
yeah, that
So
sounds good, or better at least.
then the passes this year I think were like $250, and I'm not knocking on it too much because one of the friends we got to meet up with, she works for High Res Studios, and her husband, he couldn't get a pass through her job, so he had to buy a public pass, and he was able to be there all 3 days. So
Gotcha.
I'm kind of conflicted because I do have friends who were able to come that wouldn't have been able to come if it wasn't possible or if they didn't have the public open. But it also needs to be more streamlined if that's what they're going to continue to do. One thing I saw this year more than last year was they had, like, I don't want to say VIP, but sectioned off areas that were for people who had like industry passes or passes that were
Okay.
business or media related. And then, the people that were public had this bright green fluorescent Dayglow badge. So you knew that they were the greenies or the plebs or the new the public pass. And there were certain areas that they didn't get access to because they were a general expo pass.
Sure.
So if they want to continue to have public in, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's great for the gaming community and for people to be able to experience events like this.
But it just got so ridiculous to the point, like, people who are there trying to do their jobs, like IGN or GameSpot or whatever, who are trying to, like, film stuff.
Just for example,
right,
Louise, when we were talking to her, Louise from Games Master and Game Radar, she was saying, like, I almost missed meetings because
like they couldn't get
they're
to meetings
closing off
yeah.
the halls, like the left and right halls. They're closing them off because of capacity.
Wow.
And so she can't actually make these business meetings because they're not letting people in. She's like, no, you don't understand. Like
I have to get
I have a meeting.
Yeah.
And
it was
it was crazy. So I hope that if they continue to do it, that they reevaluate how things are set up so that it's more pleasurable for both the public
right.
and it's still accessible for the industry people. Because there are people there doing business and you're walking through like the cafe area, there's dudes in sports blazers with laptops and they're talking about whatever.
Right.
And it was just very hard for those people that are, I would imagine, trying to get stuff done and, having Jimmy and Greg freaking out about Destiny 2 and,
Jimmy and Greg
swinging their Destiny. I don't know. I just not trying to hate on Destiny people, but, just with the public being there and it a lot more difficult, I think, waiting for lines. Like, we didn't even get to play Destiny 2. Really, the only things we got to play were Mario. The lines for Assassin's Creed, and
they kept closing them off.
They were closing them off because they couldn't have these abundance of people being in the middle of these hallways. So I hope it makes E3 a bigger show because they know that they're going to be bringing more people in and to experience this crazy event. But at the same time, I also hope that if they do continue to do it, that either they have like only a 1-day public pass and that's the only day that they come. So then the rest of the days are a little bit easier for the business people, or make it to where that, like a section of each booth is meant for just strictly public. And then they have areas strictly for the business people to where it's a little bit easier for both parties to be able to get done what they need to get done.
Right.
Sure. So next year, Elemental's going to have to buy all the tickets, all the public passes, and then only let in who you guys want there, right? Is that
right?
Okay.
Right.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Because we're
we booted out Bonnie Ross.
Right. So clearly, we're on a tier.
We're higher than the head of who manages Halo, and
how quickly you forget where you came from, right?
Right.
No, not even.
Right.
Well, that's
I hope we understand sarcasm and
I hope because we do not think that of ourselves.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, I think
I
that's
remember
yeah.
we're
pretty
sitting
well
down. We're like,
understood.
no, seriously. Like, I'm like, you can keep this. We'll go to the back. We'll go back there. You can have this seat.
Yeah.
Let me have a copy of Halo 6.
Man,
Any other questions? I mean, I think we've kind of.
Yeah, I think we've touched on it.
This is going to be bad because I know that we're just going to rant and go off on tangents on our own podcast and not stick to the script.
Hey man, last week on my show, we had a whole thing planned out for like the first week of summer, and we ended up talking about Katy Perry and Taylor Swift the entire time. We didn't even get to the episode. So like,
that's awesome.
and it was the most fun that I've had. So rants
That's what it's about.
rants are awesome. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I could talk to you guys forever. I think the first time that we talked, I said maybe just like 20 minutes, a half an hour, and we talked for like
2 hours.
we talked over 3 hours. I remember.
Seriously, holy crap!
It was
that's
over.
awesome.
It was over. Like my throat was hurting by the time I was done. But yeah, I mean, I know it's what is it 9:30 where you guys are.
Yeah.
I still need to.
About an hour now. Yeah.
Right. I still got to publish 2 shows tonight and record another show tonight. And I think I even said maybe just talk for 20 minutes this time, and we're hitting, over an hour already. So, so yeah, I really appreciate you guys talking. I'm just excited to get you going, to get your show going, because that's like.
For sure.
I think the first show that I even really thought about doing was the one with you. So that was like the original idea, kind of.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I wanted to, be talking about it more. I haven't actually talked to you guys other than texting since we stayed at your place in, what was that, October or something?
Yeah.
On our way out to Colorado. So yeah, I'm just, I'm really excited to get things moving. I like I said, I'm in a better place for it. And I've talked to people about it throughout the past few months, and there's people who follow you on Instagram who are like, no way, I would totally listen to that,
Really? Oh man, that's so cool. It makes me feel awesome.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I'm just super stoked. Wanted to get talking about it. Wanted to let people know things are going on, because it's all been pretty quiet, but in the background, we already have, I think, the show title picked out. I've been talking to graphic designers about it,
You have a show title picked out?
Yeah, it's called Overlord and Friends.
What is it?
Overlord and Friends.
It's perfect.
I'm gonna make it about me, even though I'm not even in it, because that's what an overlord does. A good one, anyway.
Exactly. A good overlord does that.
Right.
No, but really, do you want to say what you guys were talking about anyway? The show title?
I must be out of the loop because I'm either it's escaping me at the moment. But yeah, if I don't care, let's go ahead and say it. Why not?
The what?
The name. Do you have the name, or what?
I mean, the working title that I was under the impression was Captain and Admiral. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. If something.
That's what it was last time. I was confused for a second. I was like, "Is there some new title I don't know?"
That's what I was like.
Yeah.
I thought there was maybe some catchy.
Yeah, no,
catchy
Captain and Admiral. I don't know if we've had anything besides just Captain and Admiral. I don't remember.
I mean, I threw out the poop deck because it's naval related, but
I do remember that.
I figured that could probably be. I obviously I want to go off the deep end. No pun intended. Of course, pun intended. Off the deep end with all the different segments, like the poop deck. Batten down the hatches, full sail. Drop the anchor,
the crow's
walk the plank.
nest.
I mean, I want to go full bore with it. So.
Well, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page. I started getting nervous thinking I was operating under false pretenses here.
No, totally. I think we were all like, what?
I think we were all thinking that there was some crazy title in it. I'm like, has he got Miss McKiley's been talking?
Yeah, I was and I'm trying to think. I was like, crap, did I miss a message? Oh no.
he's thinking that me and you have another title, and we haven't been
Captain
talking.
and Admiral.
Yeah.
No. We're all okay. We're all on the same page.
Okay. So yeah, I'm really super excited. Again, this was been like a year coming at this point, and we're still not there, but things are at least moving along. And
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
Like,
and that was the point I was saying. Like, you got to a place where now you're better equipped to help us out. And as I was saying before, when we talked with Nintendo, it kind of sounded like they're in a better place too.
Right.
So things have their time. I'm definitely a firm believer in everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
And things will play out when they're supposed to. So I think it'll come along right at the right time.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And again, if you guys need anything from me, have any questions for me, I'm here for you guys. That's I want it to be your thing. I want you to do what you want to do, and I want to be like, I want to feel like I'm working for you guys.
Right.
Allow you to do your thing. So that's about all.
This is going to be completely random, but I think you were wearing that shirt the last time we talked.
I think I was, so when
Oh my God, I think you're right.
So first of all, it's my favorite shirt. It's really soft cotton. But when you said, do you just want to Skype? I called you guys, and then I was like, oh, I should probably put a shirt on, right? So like running in the room, it was the closest thing to the door. And yeah, it's
a great shirt. It's amazing.
For the listeners, it's like one of those ugly Christmas sweater shirts, but it's all like 8-bit Zelda. I love it. My girlfriend bought it for me for Christmas 2 years ago. She paid for expedited shipping, and it arrived in like April or something, even though she ordered it in like November.
Holy cow.
So it didn't arrive during Christmas. So I just feel like because of that, I can wear it in the middle of summer when it's 97 degrees.
Right.
So.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess that's about it. And if you want to follow them on Instagram, which I strongly suggest you should, what's your handle again? Your tag? What is it?
Mine is Captain Dangerous, just spelled out exactly like that. No underscores, nothing fancy.
And mine is Admiral Boogaloo, which is Admiral and then BOOGALOO. Boogaloo.
Like the song,
Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we'll be talking more, and I guess I'll leave it there. So goodbye, everyone.
Right.
Stay on Skype, though. Goodbye, everyone.
All right, bye.
See you later.
Ba 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 ba.